Alright, this video is especially for my subscribers. If you have been following this channel, you already know I use GitHub Actions in many of my real world DevOps videos. And the reason I'm making this video is simple. I don't want you to blindly use GitHub Actions and later realize you are spending money without understanding how the pricing works. Because I'll compare GitHub Actions runners with Jenkins agents and show you alternatives like Jenkins or GitLab so you don't waste money. And if you are serious about learning real world DevOps, not just tools, but how things actually work in production, subscribe to this channel. I share the kind of things people usually learn only after making expensive mistakes. Now let's start with the most important part, the real truth about GitHub Actions pricing. First, let's clear a very common misunderstanding. GitHub Actions is not unlimited even for public repositories. GitHub gives you free minutes. GitHub gives you free minutes, but they are limited. For most individual users, you get around 2000 free minutes per month across all workflows. These minutes apply to public repositories, all branches, private repositories, and all the workflows. Once your free minutes are consumed, GitHub does not stop your pipelines. It simply starts billing per minute if billing is enabled on your account. So yes, GitHub Actions is free up to a limit, but it is not unlimited. Now let's talk about GitHub hosted runners because this is where cost quietly sneaks in. GitHub charges per minute and the price depends on operating system, runner size. Linux runners are the cheapest. Windows cost more. Mac OS even more. That means if a pipeline runs for 10 minutes as an example, you consume 10 minutes of your quota. If your workflow includes unit test, Docker builds, security scan, Terraform plan, and it runs on every pull request. All these steps are running on every pull request, and it runs on every pull request. Your free minutes disappear much faster than you expect. Parallel jobs make it even worse. For example, 5 parallel jobs for 10 minutes, that means that is equal to 50 minutes consumed. You might be thinking, why I'm explaining this today? I want to be transparent here. On this channel, I use GitHub Actions a lot because it's simple, easy to learn, and it's great for demos. I was using GitHub Actions because Jenkins is a bit time consuming for me to set up from scratch, and also maintenance is a bit difficult. That's the reason I was using GitHub Actions runners a lot in my videos. Also, another important point here to consider is in real companies, cost always matter. A good DevOps engineer doesn't just make pipelines, they understand how much those pipelines cost. Now let's compare GitHub Actions runners versus Jenkins agent. Conceptually, they are the same thing. Both are machines that pull code, execute jobs, run builds and scripts. The difference is ownership. With GitHub hosted runners, GitHub owns the machine, GitHub manages it, GitHub charges you per minute. With Jenkins agents, you own the machine, you control it, you do not pay per pipeline minute. Jenkins agents can be static VMs, Docker containers, Kubernetes pods, cloud or on-prem servers. Once Jenkins is set up, you are paying only for infrastructure, not pipeline minutes. That's why Jenkins is still widely used for heavy and long running pipelines. Now, here's something very important you need to know. Self-hosted runners and upcoming change. Self-hosted runners historically did not cost per minute on GitHub side. You provided the machine, GitHub just sent jobs to it, and you paid only for your own compute. For example, if you had a compute in Azure, AWS, or GCP, you were paying only for the compute here. That made self-hosted runners behave very much like Jenkins agents. But that is changing soon. GitHub recently announced that starting in the coming pricing year, self-hosted runners for private repositories will no longer be completely free. There will be a platform usage charge per minute, even if your runner is self-hosted. That means you still pay for your own hardware or cloud compute, and GitHub will charge a small per minute platform fee for workflow execution. For example, let's try to understand with this particular pipeline. This is a private repository. I'm going to click on this pipeline. We tried to build and push a Docker image. It's a very simple job. Going forward, if you are using GitHub hosted runner, here I am using GitHub hosted runner. That means I don't have my own virtual machine set up. I am completely dependent on GitHub hosted runner. My job is just to set up the pipeline. For example, if you see the workflow file, I just wrote this workflow file and it runs on Ubuntu latest. This is managed by GitHub. I didn't had to pay any money. Going forward in 2026, if I am using private repository, okay, it is applicable only to private repository. If I use private repository, then I have to pay. If it is public, then it is free up to 2000 minutes. All right. I hope this is clear for everyone. And also, one more thing, if you are using self-hosted runner, for example, you are setting up your own virtual machine to run this particular job. It can be on-prem, it can be on your computer, it can be in the cloud. You have to pay for the workflow run. From March 1st, 2026, the cost of using a self-hosted runner on GitHub Actions cloud platform will be 0.002 US dollars per minute. Now let's talk about alternatives, because you should always understand your options. Jenkins, for example, it's free and open source. No per minute platform pricing. Very powerful, but requires setup and maintenance. Another option we have GitLab CI. I personally worked a lot with this particular tool. It's very, very good. I really like it. It has well integrated CI CD like GitHub Actions, almost similar, runner based model, self hosted. GitLab gives controls without self hosted. GitLab gives control without GitHub's platform fees. That means you can self host and it will be free in GitLab. In typical setups, GitHub Actions is great for simple workflows, whereas Jenkins for heavy and long runners. GitLab when everything is on GitLab. There is no universal best tool. There is only the right tool for your needs and use case according to your own company or project. So, here's my honest advice to you. If you are learning DevOps, GitHub Actions is a strong starting point, but make sure your repositories are public. Just stay within free minutes, that is 2000 minutes per month. Most likely 2000 minutes per month are more than enough if you are, let's say, working alone. If you are building serious pipelines, track your usage. Use self-hosted runners carefully, or consider Jenkins or GitLab for heavy workloads. DevOps is about engineering decisions, not blindly following tools. And I don't want you to spend money just because nobody explained this clearly. If this video helped you avoid wasting money, hit like, subscribe for real world DevOps, where we talk about what actually matters in production. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.